John Finkel. I think we all know who that is. For Aaron Lewis, some players not particularly familiar. I know you know him pretty well.
I know Aaron pretty well. I used to work with him in game design in Southern California. He has since moved on and lives in the Madison area. And again, the Grand Prix Las Vegas champion and someone with a lot of other tournament success as well.
He's going to start things off with a Beast Caller Savant as we are underway here in round number 11.
Star City Games ran Grand Prix Charlotte in 2012 or 2013. He was in the top 8 of that event as well.
That was one you made top 8 as well, correct?
Yes. Yep. He and I both lost in top 4.
He flies under the radar.
Yes.
He's not a big personality, any of that stuff, but the group that he is with, as far as Magic is concerned, that Madison group, a member of P9, as you can see with his sleeves and his hoodie, these guys can play some limited Magic. You're going to see an anticipate here from Finkel.
Lewis has spent a couple years as, silver level pro on the cusp of gold, plays in a lot of Grand Prix.
Might appear that Finkel is a little stuck on lands here at this point. That's why we do see this anticipate, I believe, on the main phase.
No, this is end of Lewis's turn.
End of step, okay.
Yep. Lewis, on the other hand, very land-heavy hand right now.
Yeah. Finkel has found a card that he is happy with.
Not really looking to go turn 2 Beast Caller Savant into turn 3 attack you, go.
Not my favorite thing to do.
Not great.
And there is a swamp from Finkel, so land number 3 is not a problem. Let's see what the follow-up is here for John. It'll be Drana. You got to put him to the test right away as Lewis will draw. Looks like Lewis picked up another land. It'll be an Evolving Wilds. And he'll just have to pass the turn back. No good attacks to be had here. So Finkel will be on tapping with the Liberator of Malakir. Land number 4 is a swamp.
I think if I was Lewis last turn, I would have tried to get my point in.
Ah, I like it. You know I approve. Here's Transgress the Mind. Finkel going to use the Eldrazi Scion that the Sky Spawner did make. You see Lewis's hand. It is pretty land heavy there.
Yeah, I think Finkel correctly identifying that Lewis's hand has to be top heavy because he's not casting anything. So you would prefer to get a little bit more value out of the Eldrazi Scion, but I think Finkel recognized that there's an immediate need to look at Lewis's hand.
So the hand here does have one of Lewis's 3 Tajiri Beastmasters. There's also Smite the Monsters, and then 2 Plains and a Forest. And it looks like Smite is going to bite the dust, which means John does not care about that creature. Damage is going to come across, and Drana will get a counter. And now Lewis is going to sacrifice that Evolving Wild. Is going to go get himself his island. Back over to Aaron Lewis, we will go here in just a moment. And he will draw. He's found another land here in Plains. There is the Tajiri Beastmaster. Here come the beatdowns, pass the turn back. Now this card's very powerful in green decks, of course.
Yeah, the Warcaller is one of the non-rare bombs for green.
Yep. We're very happy to have this card.
But you need to be pairing it with more creatures and more allies.
Yep.
And Lewis's hand right now, just 3 lands.
Finkel going to come across here. So Drana works in a strange way, but it does deal damage first with first strike. So then the Sky Spawner will get a counter, and then it'll deal 3 points of damage as opposed to 2 when it resolves its damage. Another Sky Spawner here. We'll bring an Eldrazi Scion along with it and pass the turn back. There is a Plains there for Aaron Lewis. And Finkel, as we saw in his match against Jerry Thompson, he's just going to the skies.
And Lewis's draw here, land heavy, nothing really powerful going on, no removal. Imagine we will be packing it up and moving to the game 2 momentarily.
Not loving how this game's going, that's for sure. He's going to tap a bunch of mana, though. He's going to play another copy of the Tajiri Beastmaster. Come across for a healthy amount of damage.
This play here at least forces Finkel to respect the possibility of getting killed next turn.
Yep.
So there's going to be, I don't know if there's necessarily going to be some chump blocking going on right now.
Finkel is going to do some massy. Maybe, can I just get the game over with next turn? Potentially.
It's for 4 with Drana, and then it's +2, so 6, and then 5 on the table. So he's short 1 point of winning next turn. So I think he's probably going to chump block this turn, would be my guess.
Eldrazi Scion will be useful to do that.
He could potentially chump block next turn, but
looks like he's got some interest in chump blocking this turn. But this is a pretty healthy attack here. So there's your block. Some damage will come through, I believe, 5 of it.
Yeah, that's a lot. Finkel still has him covered over the course of 2 turns, so it's just, can you attack for enough to present lethal next turn, while also having enough blockers back to not die if Lewis happens to draw an ally?
Finkel draws his card. Again, he's got that Drana out there. And a Sky Spawner. That's going to get a counter. Healthy amount of damage going to come across. It's a 2-turn clock here for John Finkel. He's going to follow up with a Sludge Crawler. 2 blockers back as Lewis does fall down to 4. Finkel at 9.
And I believe Ulamog's Nullifier also in Finkel's hand. Another chump blocker if he needs it.
Lewis's draw for the turn. I believe a Veteran War Leader. The question is, does Lewis want to show this card? Is there any benefit?
He's just going to let it go.
Yeah, I don't think there's much, so he's not going to attack for lethal. He can present lethal, but then there's just chump blocking to be done because trample's not granted with these pump effects. And maybe I save the Veteran War Leader because that card's very powerful in his deck actually.
Yeah, it's a good one to conceal. Yeah. And he only comes across for 4 or 5 points of damage that turn in the event that Finkel double chump blocks, which he will.
Yep.
Dies the next turn, no reason to show it, might as well concede.
That's exactly what he does do. So John Finkel's going to win game number 1 here over Aaron Lewis. That blue-black deck that we saw him draft at the beginning of the day took down Jerry Thompson, currently up a game against the Grand Prix Las Vegas champion here in Aaron Lewis. For Lewis and his Bant deck, again, there's some power to be had here. 3 copies. 3 copies of Tajiro Beastmaster in his deck, among a bevy of other cards.
Well, the War Caller here is, again, one of the best non-rares that Green has, and Lewis resolved, I think 3 spells that game, 4 spells that game.
Yeah, about 4 spells. Against
Finkel having turn 3 Drana backed up by other flyers. And the game was, it wasn't that close at the end of it, but it was fairly competitive given the number of spells that Lewis drew. So if he was able to get his hands on those War Callers with a little bit more action, some early plays, he may be able to win, even though Finkel does have a lot of power in his deck, including that Drana. Lewis also has a Plummet in his sideboard. That's a big game changer here. He doesn't kill creatures very effectively. Finkel's mostly attacking with flyers, and so Plummet's a great sideboard card for Lewis to get.
Yeah, I think he's got some nice options here, and I think that Aaron has a pretty nice deck. I think that's just a game where he just kind of flooded out. And again, you mentioned that we saw the 2 copies of the Tajiro War Caller in that particular game, not the Beastmaster, I do apologize, and he's got 3 copies of the card in his deck. Again, he's got a nice ally theme to his deck. I like what's going on here.
Yeah, it feels like a more powerful version of what we watched Thompson do, a lot of that being a consequence of just the way the packs broke.
Yeah.
Lewis was able to get his hands on 3 copies of Tajiro War Caller, and Thompson could not find any.
So these players shuffle and present, and Aaron Lewis will have the option. Don't want to say he's going to play first for sure, because I thought that Jerry Thompson would last round, and Jerry chose to draw. So both players take a look at the opening hand, and we will see who plays first here in this game. Lewis going to very quickly keep his opening hand. It appears Finkel will do the same, and Lewis will be on the play. He'll start things off with a Fertile Thicket. So he'll take a look at the top 5. There are a lot of lands up there. You can see that 4 of them, 3 plains, 1 forest, and then 1 copy of Tajiro War Caller. All going to go down to the bottom.
You are not forced to reveal a land.
Correct.
You can simply put it on the cards on the bottom if you want to. And it's possible Lewis just has a land-heavy hand here. Maybe he's on the hunt for an island. He would have kept an island, but not any of the other lands.
Sludge Crawler was where Finkel's going to start things. It's a plains here for Lewis. And he will pass the turn back over to Finkel. Finkel will draw. Remember, as we saw during the draft, Finkel doesn't have a lot of ways to ingest. He does have some ingest payoffs, like Wasteland Strangler, but not a ton of ways. Those Sludge Crawler's going to get the job done here, and it's going to reveal it to Tajiro War Caller. Looks like Gideon's Reproach was the draw. Here's McKindy Patrol. Lewis will pass the turn back over to Finkel. We'll see an Anticipate here for John on the end step. He'll take a look at the top couple of cards and take one with him. Going to consult the grip before making a selection, and Finkel has found a selection that he's apparently happy with, as the other 2 cards will go to the bottom.
He was looking at 2 lands and a Silent Skimmer. Took the flyer.
Finkel will draw now. There is a swamp. 3 mana might bring a Sky Spawner with it, and it will. And it looks like Finkel's content to not attack with the Sludge Crawler. Going to leave that back on defense for now as we head back Aaron Lewis's way. Evolving Wilds is land number 4. And Lewis will just pass the turn back over to Finkel. Finkel will draw. It's an island there for John. Island will be the land that he chooses to play. Here come the beatdowns in the air. Cloud Manta. And a passing of the turn. Again, we saw this in John's match against Jerry. As here's a natural connection from Aaron, so he's ramping up pretty well here on the end step. We saw this in John's match against Jerry, and this is what we're going to see with his deck quite a bit, I think. A lot of flying.
Yes.
Yeah. Natural connection is going to find the island.
And in his matches both against Lewis and in Thompson, it's felt like he's been playing against green decks without a lot of defense in the air, and that have gone off to slow starts as well.
Yeah. Giant Mantis is a card that was pretty good for Jerry in the match. Bought him some time. Wasn't able to work him to victory, but bought him some time.
And if you're a little bit slow against the blue decks, it takes you a while to get something substantial to play to either block or threaten some combat on the way back. You're going to get swallowed up by Clutch of Currents and Rush of Ice. Those were those cards really come into play.
Yeah, that tempo advantage is huge. 3 mana here. It'll be Veteran War Leader. That'll trigger the Vigilance there from McKinley Patrol. Now, we saw Lewis not cast this last game. That was his draw step on the final turn of game 1. And Veteran War Leader's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. So currently a 2/2. You can tap another untapped ally you control to give the Veteran War Leader either First Strike, Vigilance, or Trample.
Very nice combo with the McKinley Patrol.
Yes.
Because they all have Vigilance, and then they can be tapped to grant keywords to the War Leader. It's combo.
That's a member of Combo Nation.
That's a combo
of
cards, a combination of cards.
3 damage will come through. And we will head back Finkel's way. It'll take a draw step here. To the skies goes Finkel yet again. The Cloud Manta and the Eldrazi Sky Spawner. A Gideon's Reproach will be cast here by Aaron Lewis, looking to take down the Manta, slow down the beats. Looks like Finkel may have a response, however.
Spell Shrivel incoming.
Yeah. That card's been impressive all weekend to me.
It's not a card that I've played a lot in my draft decks, and it's a card I feel like I need to reevaluate now. It's been very good when we've seen it.
Yeah. Coral Helm Guide, the follow-up there for Finkel. Pass the turn back over to Lewis. Lewis with an island. Let's see what Eric can bring to the table here. See if he can put up a fight. Well, there's one of the 3 of those Sajura War Callers. Here come the beatdowns. He's going to try. Creatures you control get +2/+2 right now. Keep in mind, Veteran War Leader just got an extra couple points of power and toughness as a new creature hit the battlefield, plus the bonus. And then everything's got Vigilance because of the McKinley Patrol. So a pretty healthy attack here from Aaron Lewis. The green decks can hit hard.
And I'm anticipating here a chump block on the Patrol and just letting the War Leader go through because there's no real way to chump block it and gain trample.
One card that Finkel does have in his hand is that Clutch of Currents. He's got 2 of those in his deck here this weekend. And it is a doozy. Finkel's just got to decide exactly which creature he wants to block with. It looks like it's going to be Sludge Crawler and McKinley Patrol. Damage will come through, and now we head back John Finkel's way. See the life totals here, 12-13. Finkel untapping pretty confidently here as he's drawn a Swamp for the turn. He'll deploy that Swamp. We might see Clutch of Currents, but might be just be an attack here first. It'll be the Flyers yet again. Lou's going to fall down to 7. The follow-up is the Skimmer. John able to present lethal next turn. Lewis will draw. Didn't get a great look at the draw step. 6 mana to Drew Beastmaster.
So that's +3/+3 across the team.
Yeah, everything is huge.
But there's no trample involved here. So as long as Finkel can simply chump block the non-veteran war leader creatures, he still has lethal in the air.
Unfortunately for the war leader, though it does get a lot of different abilities, lifelink is not one of them. Some first strike, some vigilance, or some trample.
Yeah, if it had lifelink, I think we would have seen that over like a couple turns here of these attacks.
A little bit of a different game. So Finkel got to try to manage things here. Some chump blocking to be done.
This feels pretty straightforward to me. He's still got 7 in the air.
Yeah, and that's going to do it. Aaron Lewis will concede the game, hoping John would block wrong, but he would not. The Gideon's reproach being countered there was huge.
Yes, a huge tempo play. Finkel was out in front just most of the game. It wasn't like Lewis was doing low power stuff. It just took him a little too long to get out of the gates, and then a couple tricks there, just too much for Lewis to overcome.
So John Finkel, he gets the W there with that blue-black deck. He is 2-0 in the pod, and we're going to get to watch to see next round if he's able to work the 3-0, and then move on to X-1. That'll be 11-1 through day one and pod 1 of competition.
Though that does not lock you up for a top 8 berth.
Not at all.
The Grand Prix is now, I mean, it's been this way for a while, but with thousands of people competing in them, we've seen X-2 miss. I know that we covered the modern Grand Prix in Charlotte a couple months ago.